What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more acid trance. And I join you after a long and arduous journey. What I mean by that is I was looking for a particular Nostrum record. It's his singles collection, 12-inch EP. And ultimately, I was unable to find it through multiple stacks where it should have been. Now, that's not crazy unusual, because when you have a lot of records and you mix DJ sets, occasionally you take records from different subsets, and then you bring them all to the turntable area, you mix them, and then sometimes you're a bit lazy when you put them back, and you don't go immediately and put them back where all the different labels are that the records from your set are part of. You just kind of put them, oh, here's the general trance area, I'm going to put these all back here. And then over time they get diffused a little bit. Now typically every several months I'll just tidy up my record collection a bit and, oh wait, this one actually goes over here and this one goes over here. But for whatever reason I couldn't find this Nostrum record and it was driving me crazy. And then I remembered that I have a closet which is technically my pantry, but which has vinyl from top shelf to bottom shelf. And I was like, oh my god, wait a minute, it's probably in there. It was, but on my way to finding it, I came across this beauty, and I immediately said, oh wait a minute, you know what, I'd actually like to react to this. So, shout out to Nostrum's single collection. We'll get to something that's on there in a little while, but what we're going to listen to is a track by Formic Acid. Now, Formic Acid is a name that has a bit of a history, and people may know if my early acid trance reactions are anything that you've seen. I reacted to a tune by Acute Genius, now Acute spelled without the E on the end, just A-C-U-T, Genius, and that was a very early name used by Kai Franz, who is most commonly known as Kai Tracid, with tracid being a mix between the word trance and the word acid. And this all ties or dovetails nicely because another master of the mixing of trance and acid is Nostrum. But yes, Kai Franz, one of his earliest names was Acute Genius, and he made a track that is absolutely wicked and fantastic called Formic Acid, which is also the first track in a very popular mix on my YouTube called Electric Signals, or Electrical Signals. In any case, after he made the track Formic Acid, he then began using the name Formic Acid as an artist pseudonym, or one of his many artist names. And he made several releases under the name Formic Acid, whereas he only made 2 records under the name Acute Genius. Getting lost in the weeds yet? Let me help you. So yes, this is a track called Dreams of Fantasy by Formic Acid, or rather the title of the release is Dreams of Acid. And there's one track called Acid Dreams, another track called Trance Dreams, another track called Ambient Dreams, and finally, Endless Dreams. Now, Endless Dreams is very similar to the track Acid Dreams, but it's a longer extended cut. So, yes, if you're not confused already, let me simplify and say that every track on this release is fantastic. It all plays off the same general groupings of sounds, which is a great trance melody, a lot of acid work, and whale song. That's right, we're going to hear some whale song. So again, Acid Dreams is basically the same track as Endless Dreams, but we're going to listen to Endless Dreams because it's a little bit longer, it's an extended cut. So with no further ado, and sorry for the confusing opening, but I feel a bit confused after that vinyl hunt for about an hour. So here we go. This is Formic Acid, aka Kai Franz, most commonly known as Kai Tracid, and his track Endless Dreams, which is on the release Dreams of Fantasy.
Now you step into the land of dreams.
Some synth vocal pads, obviously that drop sound which I had forgotten to mention in advance.
Dreams of fantasy.
A jet Doppler effect sound,
Dreams
and like a
of
mechanical
fantasy.
elevator sort of sound. Oof.
Dreams of fantasy.
The clap switching from every other to every kick. Acid kicking up a gear.
Dreams of fantasy.
Proper hi-hat. And that sharp acid stab in the middle of the supporting acid.
Nerves tested land of dreams. Dreams of fantasy.
I've used this in a lot of acid trance mixes over the years, and a lot of them on my SoundCloud, and now I would say like audio only mixes, meaning mixes where it's not a video mix, it's, you know, a mix that I put samples into. So this breakdown and other breakdowns in this track, just, I think of Carl Sagan's voice. I've sampled him a lot in these mixes over the years, including ones with this track. That segmented vocal synth melody is very early to mid 90s trance. Like choral vocal synth. Really is like an ocean of acid. I knew this coming, but man. Like shooting star acid. The layering of acid in these classic mid-90s acid tracks, genius, acute or otherwise. Not even worried about that cyclical pop.
Dreams of fantasy.
And as I said, there's also on this same side an ambient version of the track, which is really nice because a lot of trance releases back in the day, maybe you got one or two versions of the same tune. More typically it'd be like 3 different tracks, but they were all like trance tracks. So I love the fact that they have Kai has a track or a version on this record that takes all those same pieces you just heard, but pulls out the trance kick drum and tempo and makes it into this floaty, ambient, acidic ambient tune, which is really ahead of its time. I would say it's more akin to like Sybient that you would hear in the late 2000s, early 2010s. So yeah, it was a really ahead of its time tune. Perhaps I'll come back for that one in my Sybient playlist at some point in the future. But yes, it's a brilliant tune. It's a long tune. It's a full tune. Indeed, like trance in more modern times, number one has a different sound, even modern acid trance, than what you heard here. But also older trance tracks just really took their time to unfold and play out. So I love how long it is. Number two, the acid and the layered acid is, in some respects, the thing that my brain keys into the most. I would say, though, the sonic star of the track for me is the whale song. The whale song just makes it different from any other acid trance tune I've ever heard. And I'm going to give a big shout out here to someone who is no longer with us, a guy named Acid Brew Matt. First name Matt, obviously, and Acid Brew is his nickname, and then a lot of people called him Acid Brew Matt to distinguish him from other Matts. In any case, through him, I met Bad Boy Pete, an acid techno producer, and ultimately the person who gave me the final push to start doing reaction videos, which is why I'm sitting here before you now. So shout out to Pete, but also shout out to Acid Brew, who was primarily interested in acid techno, real kind of fist in the air, London squat party sort of acid techno, but he did have an ear for good tunes in other genres, and I remember using this in one of my mixes on my SoundCloud, and we used to follow each other's SoundClouds, and we would comment endlessly on each other's mixes. You know, I'd put up a mix, and Acid Brew Matt would have like 15 comments over the course of the mix, because you can like comment on SoundCloud, and it shows your comment like where it is in the mix, like, you know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 32 minutes. And I remember he left a comment in the area of this tune on a mix that I put on SoundCloud, and it was something like, oh my god, you know, I'm not a huge trance guy, but I've embraced my inner whale, and I'm feeling this tune something wicked. And so whenever I listen to this, I think of that phrase, I've embraced my inner whale. So R.I.P. and shout out to Acid Brew Matt and to Bad Boy Pete, as I said, for putting me on the path that led me here, and of course that led me to react to all sorts of different music, not just acid music. So in any case, shout out to them. Also, shout out to Kai Franz. I've talked about it, I think, in the videos where I'd reacted to two different Acute Genius tracks. But Kai Franz, again, he's most known for his tunes under the name Kai Tracid, which is like late 90s, early 2000s on his own Tracid tracks, and I think that's tracks with 3 X's on the end. Maybe it's just 2, but either way, I think that stuff is good, but his best stuff is under a few different names in the early to mid-90s, namely Acute Genius, Formic Acid, and what's the other one? Oh, there's another one, it's like, he made a tune like Words of Wisdom under this other name. In the moment, I'm forgetting what it is. I do have one of the records under this other name, but my point is, the best Kai Franz material for me is the stuff from like 94 to 96, and then after that he morphs into Kai Tracid, and that's still good stuff, but it's not quite on the same level as his earlier stuff. So for me, this is some of the best stuff he ever made. And ultimately he then went into like, he stepped away from producing for like a decade, and then in the early 2010s he came back and he was making like very mellow, like tech house. Nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't really my thing. I think in the last few years he has started to make some acid trance again, so shout out to Kai Franz for his long and storied career, but especially to his earlier material. I know this is a long video, so I'll wrap it up now, but shout out to all the acid people out there everywhere. Let me know what you think of this one, and I will see you next time. Peace.